Today I am in Guadeloupe. When you first come off the ship, you are in a cruise complex. Just follow the painted walkway. You do have to go through 2 sets of turnstiles to get out. So these are kind of full body turnstiles you rotate through and keep exiting out. So you go through one, then you get into the shopping area of the port. If you're looking for a souvenir, they've got options for you right there. They also have some restaurants in that area, and they also have a visitor information booth. They have maps you can take a picture of, people you can ask questions to. I didn't see any maps available for you to take. So if you are headed to Guadeloupe, I recommend downloading the map of Pointe-a-Pitre on your Google Maps before you leave home, because I didn't see any maps available to take, or just snap a picture on your phone before you take off. Once you get past that visitor information booth, you'll see signs pointing you towards shore excursions. So if you are on a tour through the ship, just follow the signs over there. Right across the street from where the tours meet, from the parking lot where the buses come, that's where you'll find the taxi dispatch area. So you can head there if you want to pick up a taxi to head somewhere. Then you go through another turnstile to exit out of the port. After you exit the second time, I found drivers right out there as well, offering some taxi tours, and then you can just follow the signs to head downtown. So let's go explore Pointe-à-Pitre. I'm Valerie. I'm a cruise director working at sea for about 10 years. Right now, I spend 8 months out of the year at sea, so I am here to help you get the most out of your time in port. This is the Victor Schœlcher Museum here in Guadeloupe. Victor Schœlcher was an abolitionist and is largely credited with freeing the slaves throughout France, including overseas departments of France and other French territories, such as Guadeloupe. He also served as a minister to Martinique and to Guadeloupe. So if you have visited Fort-de-France, if you haven't visited it yet, check out my port guide video on that. But if you did visit it, or if you watched that video, we also went to the Schœlcher Library that's there. It's this iconic yellow and red building. So this is the museum that's here in Guadeloupe, maybe a 5-minute walk from the ship, very, very close. It's just directly inland from the ship. Schœlcher traveled all around the world. He was also an art collector. So this used to be called the Schœlcher Museum. You'll actually see the signs on the street still point to the Schœlcher Museum, but the signs here now refer to it as the Art and History Museum. So it was recently redone. This is now early 2025. It's been closed for the past few years as they were redoing it. It has reopened now. Unfortunately, here in January, it's closed for just a handful of days. That happens to be during my visit here, so they aren't open at the moment, but they should be open again. Part of the museum tells the story of Schœlcher, so it talks about his work and his work as an abolitionist, and then part of the museum exhibits his art from all around the world. So you get a bit of both the local story, but then also the story of his travels and worldwide art. So if you want to know more about the region, this is a good place to come. If you're just an art lover, also a good place to come. The admission fee here used to be a couple of euros per person, so be prepared to pay something for this museum. Since they've reopened it, since their big renovation, it has been free, but I expect that probably at some point, probably soon, they will reinstate that admission fee for the Schœlcher Museum or the Art and History Museum. But it's this beautiful yellow building with lots of ironwork on it. It also has a fountain that isn't operating right now, also a bust of Schœlcher, and then it has this iron gate as well. So if it is closed, like I have found it to be closed today, they do have an interpretive sign over in the corner near the bust of Schœlcher, so you can at least learn a bit more about him and why he is tied to Guadeloupe. This is the Central Market. Just keep going down that same street where we found that yellow museum. I believe that street is called Rue du Plessis, but I haven't seen any street signs so far, but there were signs pointing to the Central Market, pointing to the museum. So this is the Central Market. It's also called the Spice Market. So very fragrant as you are walking through. There's fresh vanilla, there are curries. They actually make a local spice blend called Colombo that they use in a curry dish. So you might see it listed on menus, which would be the curry dish made with it, or you can buy the spice mix here. I also saw they had a few sample packs, so it makes a really nice gift. You can bring back all these local spices from the flavors of the Caribbean. Also some souvenirs here, some local produce, but as you go through, you'll see big bags, big cans full of different spices. It smells amazing. I could hang out there all day just wandering through, people watching, smelling all of those great spices in there as well. This does close early in your visit. It's only open until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So plan ahead. If you do want to check out the spice market, come here first. Even if you're on a tour in the morning, if you have time right after the ship docks to run out and then go back and meet your tour, do it. You can get here in about 10 minutes from that cruise center area. So you could just pop out, check it out, and then be back there to meet your tour. But again, come here early because they do close at 1. There's also a fountain here in the square. This open air metal building, they used to have a bell here that was rung on special occasions, everything from a celebration to a warning of a hurricane coming in. I'm not sure how you knew which was which. Whenever the bell rang, something was going on. It could be a party, it could be danger. I don't know how that worked. But you can come visit this very historic site. They still have the market here today. One of the can't miss attractions when you visit Guadeloupe. While I'm waiting for the rain to pass, it is pouring at the moment. Still sunny right down there. So hopefully that sun is headed this way, but I am waiting for the rain to pass. So I just pulled over off to the side here. A big question that comes up, probably the most common question, especially if you're sailing from North America coming down here to Guadeloupe, comes down to currency. Guadeloupe is a department of France, an overseas department of France. That means their currency here is the euro. Lots of Caribbean islands have a bunch of different currencies. Many of them accept US dollars, especially in the port area. Guadeloupe, you're not going to find US dollars accepted most places. So you will need euros if you want any cash only transactions, like at the markets. You will need euros for that. Any small, if you're buying lunch somewhere, you're probably going to want to have some euros on you. Some taxis also may not accept credit cards, so you would want some euros. So I recommend grabbing some at the airport, if nothing else, before you come, or hit an ATM here in Guadeloupe. I'll try to highlight where some of those are, but you are going to need some euros for your transactions when you're here. Places that take credit cards, there are a number of places that will take them. Primarily, it's going to be MasterCard or Visa. You're not going to find, say, a Discover card or an American Express widely accepted down here. But if you've got a MasterCard or a Visa, check before you leave home with your bank just to make sure that there's no foreign transaction fee. If there is, you're going to be paying a bit more on there than you expected. So make sure there's no foreign transaction fee on your credit card before you come to the islands. One of my favorite cards with no foreign transaction fee is the Capital One Venture card. It's what I recommend for a lot of overseas travel. I love mine, works great. Plus you get 2 points on everything, so you use it while you travel and it can help get your next travel included. All right, the shower is passing us by already. The sun is coming out. So if you keep going down that same street, the street that has the museum on it, the street that has the spice market on it, just keep going and eventually you'll get back to the waterfront. There's kind of a little bay, a little inlet that comes in beyond the cruise terminal. So when you're on the waterfront, if you've got the water on your right, just take a look to your left and there will be the Place des Victoire, the Victory Plaza. Please excuse my French, I do not speak French, so I'm giving it my best shot. But there's the Victory Plaza that's out here. So it's this space right in front of me. So a nice wide open green space, benches, lots of seating for you to come and relax. Obviously lots of wet seating now since it did just rain. Also a playground here, so if you're traveling with children, they can come enjoy this playground. So out there you can see the waterfront. You could come off the ship and then just kind of keep to the right and follow the water line along. But like I said, if you go down that street that has the museum, has the spice market, it will lead you right here. Just keep going straight into town. I also see toilets over there on the far side of the park. So if you need some public toilets here in Victory Plaza, you will find some. I came over here to check out the toilets because if you've traveled before in Europe and France, you know a lot of times even public toilets like this you need to pay to use. So I wanted to see if they only accept like a euro coin or if it's a credit card. And they've got a sign on it that there's free access. So free toilets here in the park if that's what you're looking for. I know a day of exploration, that's key information. You need to know where the restroom is. So again, the Victory Plaza in the heart of downtown, they got you covered. Still here in Victory Plaza because I also wanted to point out that there is an ATM right across the street. I think there is one closer to the ship. To get here, you'd be maybe a 15-minute walk, between 10 and 15 minutes. Not really all that far to get here. So I think there are some closer to the ship, but this one really stands out. It's got the big red sign. You see a few people there in line for it already. So if you do need a need-to-know place where you can get those euros, just keep heading inland down that street that I mentioned, and then you can find the ATM here at the plaza. I'm at this very iconic museum on the waterfront here in Pointe-à-Pitre. It's the museum ACTe. I actually wanted to go ask how it said. I also wanted to ask if they have credit cards. They just have a guard. There's no like ticket window. You have to go inside to then get to the ticketing area, and the guard won't even let anyone go in. Eventually I figured out they were at capacity. It was actually quite confusing. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't speak French. The guard only speaks French. Understandable. This is part of France, but we did have a hard time communicating. I knew enough to say, fermé, is it closed? And then I got no capacity. So I think the museum is full right now. I don't know if there's a tour. If you are interested in this museum, I know you can buy tickets online, but unfortunately I couldn't even go in and ask the questions that I wanted to ask to get you the information. But this museum was originally built, as I understand it, about 10 years ago, 2015, to tell the story of slavery in the Caribbean. They still tell that story, but they've also now included the story of Creolization in the Caribbean. So all of these cultures coming together on these islands. So it's a beautiful building. I can only imagine what the inside is like. It's a very large complex, larger than I expected it to be. So I easily walked here from the ship, probably about 25 minutes. You'll see signs directing you over here to the museum, so you could spend some time here as well. Beautiful views of the waterfront. They do have a restaurant right along the waterfront. It appears to not be open right now as well. I did see they have lockers inside, so you probably have to store your stuff as you go through. So if this is something that you're really interested in doing, I would recommend making your reservation online in advance, because like I said, I showed up and they didn't have room for me today and no information when there would be space available. I haven't seen anyone come out yet. I've seen lots of people wandering around like I was, because I just thought I was at the wrong door. So I walked all the way around that building. I walked all the way around that building, then went back and asked if it was closed, and discovered that they're at capacity. So my fault. I don't have my ticket and couldn't communicate very well here. But if you want to do this, book your ticket in advance. Tickets here also include an audio guide, so you've got that guide in your ear as you tour around the museum. I'm walking back to the ship now from that museum on the waterfront. Like I said, about a 25-minute walk to get over there. So let's talk a little bit about some other options when you come to Guadeloupe. First of all, if you want to go to the beach, there are no beaches within walking distance. So you will be looking at you will be looking at hiring a taxi to get you there. I suppose you could rent a car, but you could just hire a taxi to get you out to the beach. There are beaches that are just like a 15-minute drive away. So it's not like you got to go all the way to the other side of the island or anything like that, but they're just not close enough to walk. There is a national park and a marine reserve, actually called the Cousteau Reserve, in honor of Jacques Cousteau, who he and his team explored there as they were doing some testing on some underwater exploration equipment. It's way on the other side of the island, so you would be looking at most likely a tour to get you there. Sure, a taxi could do it, but usually if it's anything that's kind of far away, I prefer to take a tour through the ship. If it's something close by and you feel comfortable hopping in a cab like those beaches, that's a good way to do it. But if it is something that's far away on the other side of the island, you might want to look into a tour. So what do you need to know for your visit to Guadeloupe, especially if you are arriving on a ship? First of all, it is called Guadeloupe. This island was explored by Christopher Columbus. He named the island, it is believed. So back then when he would have claimed it for Spain or explored it in the name of Spain, it would have been pronounced Guadeloupe, the Spanish pronunciation. But now that it is an overseas department of France, it is pronounced Guadeloupe. I'm told the locals just call it Guada. So if you can't remember if it's Guadeloupe, Guadeloupe, just go with the local pronunciation. Just call it Guada. I think you'll get by just fine. Also interesting to know is that Guadeloupe, is not an island. And that really confuses people, because where in the Caribbean is not an island, but Guadeloupe is actually an archipelago of islands. So it's multiple different islands. So don't say I'm going to visit the island of Guadeloupe. You can say the islands of Guadeloupe, or you can just say the name of the town, but it's not the name of the island, it's the name of the archipelago. Interestingly, St. Martin and St. Bart's were also considered part of Guadeloupe until I think about 2007, when they broke off and became their own entity. So Guadeloupe, archipelago, not an island. Also important to know about euros and French. It's an overseas department of France, so they do use the euro. US dollars are not widely accepted here. A lot of ports in the Caribbean, they are. You can get by just fine on most Caribbean cruises without exchanging any currency. You've got different currencies on a bunch of different islands, but you would rarely need to do a currency conversion. This would be an exception to that rule. You're going to want to look at getting some euros or paying for everything on a card. Also, English is not widely spoken here. Again, on a lot of islands in the Caribbean, you will find it widely spoken, especially in the port towns. Not the case here. You'll find some signs with things in English. Most signs I have found, though, everything is in French. So I really recommend either using Apple's Translate app or putting Google Translate on your device, downloading French before you leave home so that you are able to convert things as you go. I use the camera feature in those translate apps all the time, so I can just point it at signs and figure things out. That's how I knew that the Schœlcher Museum was closed. That's how I interpreted some things here as well. So definitely recommend downloading a translate app if you don't speak French, as you may need to use it to communicate while you are here. Also, I know a lot of people get a little nervous when you first get off the ship in Guadeloupe. The first few buildings that you see are in disrepair. There's a lot of street art, a lot of graffiti on them. I think it's a really cool atmosphere. Actually, there's some beautiful artwork through there. Some of the sidewalks are also in disrepair. I think that scares some people right away and they turn around and go back. But there's also a lot of beauty here, like the big museum here on the waterfront, like the Schœlcher Museum, even that spice market. So there's still lots to check out. So I do recommend either doing that loop on your own, kind of do your DIY tour, or booking a tour here to go explore something. Don't just let your first impression stop you and you turn around and get right back on the ship. I suggest you go a little deeper, explore a little bit more, not of the island of Guadeloupe, but of the archipelago. Pointe-à-Pitre definitely has some beautiful areas to it, and I'm sure the rest of the islands in this archipelago do as well. I just want to make one more note on the French and on the euros aspect of Guadeloupe. My personal rule when I'm traveling is that I should never be annoyed when things aren't happening the way that I'm used to them happening when I'm visiting their country. I think in the North American cruise market, we're very used to ports catering to our preferred language, our preferred currency, but I do think that that's a lot to expect when you are visiting a different country. These are all, for the most part, individual entities. So here it's like, of course they speak French, of course they use the euro. This is part of France. So just come prepared. Come prepared with that translate app. Come prepared with euros, or be ready to use your credit card or to withdraw some. That's just the reality of this island. I actually really like that aspect. This feels a lot more like when you travel in Europe and each port is using a different currency and each has a very different culture to it. It's not just a cookie cutter that you sometimes get when you go to other islands. So just come prepared. I think you'll have a great time. Back here at the cruise center, a number of different establishments list their prices both in US dollar and in euro, and a number of them also take credit cards. So the conversion rate is a lot better if you have a card that can just get charged in the local currency in euros, because right now the US dollar is just about 3 cents more than the euro. 1 euro equals $1.03 US. But the conversion here is they've just added another dollar to whatever the price is. So you might pay 3 euros, but then they're asking 4 US dollars for some souvenirs. So pay with credit card if you can, if you don't have any euros. But there are places right here in the shopping in the cruise center. In this terminal building itself, I've seen people on there using Wi-Fi. I couldn't get my device connected, but there's lots of people in there using it. So you can check there. They've also got restrooms in this building. So just right off the ship, before you go all the way out the exit into the town, you're able to get some Wi-Fi, do some souvenir shopping right here in the port. I just walked back on board, and on my way back, I stopped and chatted with a taxi driver. I know a lot of you are curious about Death in Paradise. I had guests tell me that that's why they picked this cruise, because we came to Guadeloupe and they're big fans of the TV show Death in Paradise. Sadly, I have not yet checked out that show. I plan on doing it as soon as I can, because I would love to see it. Sounds great. I also love watching and reading things set in where I'm traveling. So the taxi driver told me that the area where that is set, the establishments you might recognize from the show, is about an hour away with no traffic. So it is pretty far away. He said that in his car he can take four people, 200 euros to do the tour. It would be about a 3-hour tour. You get there in an hour, you have about an hour to see those sites, and then an hour to come back. So wanted to drop that in because I know there are a lot of people interested in it, especially any British guests want to come check that out. Also in the cruise center, the first store that you come to, there is a sign that says DIP, and so it's got all your Death in Paradise souvenirs. They've got t-shirts, bag, coffee cups, so if you wanted to get a local souvenir to commemorate one of your favorite shows, you could get that Death in Paradise souvenir right there. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy your visit to Guadeloupe.